The Pittsburgh Steelers are all in on winning a Super Bowl during the 2025 NFL season. Not only did they move on from Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to go sign veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers, but they also made a huge trade for wide receiver DK Metcalf. Unfortunately, they dished star wideout George Pickens later in the offseason, and they also lost Najee Harris in free agency. Despite having several championship-level pieces, the Steelers' offense has a few more questions than desirable for a team chasing a title. Fortunately for Pittsburgh, there is still plenty of time to strike a major deal and find the missing piece for their offense. Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and Caleb Johnson seem to be capable of holding down the running back position, but they may have to go outside of the building for another star receiver. Pittsburgh Steelers trade idea lands them 5-time All-Pro wideout TYREEK Hill. Bleacher Report's Brett Sobleski recently proposed for possible trade destinations for disgruntled Miami Dolphins wideout TYREEK Hill. Sobleski floated the following trade idea as a way for the Steelers to land the 8-time Pro Bowler and 5-time All-Pro. Sobleski's logic for making the move is sound as well. Pittsburgh can easily take advantage of a Dolphins team that seems destined for failure in 2025 and could be desperate to offload one of their star players to gain draft capital. With 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers behind center, the Steelers are all in for the 2025 campaign. It's Super Bowl or bust in the Steel City. However, they haven't done enough to place them among the AFC's elite, Sobleski wrote. Earlier this summer, the acquisition of wide receiver DK Metcalf from the Seattle Seahawks created excitement, even with the team's previous uncertainty at quarterback. Pittsburgh subsequently traded George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys, again creating a need for a legitimate number 2 target. As far as how things would look on the field, Sobleski paints a beautiful picture of a versatile and highly successful passing attack in Pittsburgh, one that could finally put them back over the top in the AFC North. By pairing Hill's blazing speed with Metcalf's physicality and Rodgers pulling the strings, the Steelers may have finally moved the needle and elevated their status as a legitimate contender, Sobleski wrote. There are definitely some concerns about Hill and his troubling legal issues, as well as his reputation for being a bad teammate. But if one man can keep the latter under control, it is Mike Tomlin, so he and the Steelers could take on the challenge of adding Hill as they venture toward a make-or-break year. The 2026 quarterback draft class is one that stands out from the muck of the 2025 NFL draft class, Pittsburgh Steelers assistant general manager Andy Weidl said on Thursday. Weidl addressed the quarterback class as being better than last year's with a lot of talented players, but he acknowledged they have no idea who will end up coming out in the class. There's some guys that are really talented coming out. There's guys that can probably put it into a pocket. There's guys that can put it into a pocket and win on the run. They have the skills as well. I don't want to get too much into it right now, Weidl said. Whether they all come out, we'll find out. We'll do our work. We do it every year. We've got a great group of scouts. We've got continuity. This year is the first time. Last year and this year, we've been in the same group together. We're expecting big things. We've talked about it. As Weidl mentioned, there is a diversity in talent. Some risers that have become top mocked picks include Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, Texas' Arch Manning, LSU's Garrett Nussmeier, Clemson's Cade Klubnik, South Carolina's Lenora Sellers, and Penn State's Drew Aller. There can always be other players that arise from the group, too, much like Jaden Daniels did 2 years ago when soared to the 2nd overall selection. For the Steelers, they are projected to have 12 draft picks, which would give them plenty of draft capital and ammo to move up the board for a player they see as a franchise quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers haven't been shy about making big-time trades when they feel the opportunity presents itself. The superstar wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, TYREEK Hill, has been floated around in some extremely unreliable rumors suggesting the Steelers could trade for him. This speculation began when Hill made it clear he wasn't entirely happy in Miami. Miami Dolphins star wide receiver TYREEK Hill gets ready during an away game in the 2024 NFL season. While the two sides have reportedly been working to smooth things over, it remains uncertain what the future holds for Hill and the Dolphins. For Pittsburgh, the wide receiver room has been a point of concern for some analysts. Adding a player of Hill's caliber would instantly elevate the offense, but the question remains what the Steelers would have to give up. According to Bleacher Report's Brent Sobleski, one hypothetical solution could involve sending promising young linebacker Nick Herbig to Miami in exchange for Hill. The trade package floated by Sobleski involves the Dolphins sending Hill to the Steelers in exchange Herbig and 2 late-round draft picks, a 4th and a 7th. By pairing Hill's blazing speed with Metcalf's physicality and Rodgers pulling the strings, the Steelers may have finally moved the needle and elevated their status as a legitimate contender, Sobleski wrote. For the Dolphins, the return won't be as good as adding a 28-year-old, 5-time Pro Bowl safety. Miami can certainly demand more in a trade if the franchise is willing to eat a portion of Hill's upcoming bonus and/or base salary. Though the organization has already stated publicly it doesn't want to trade him, which hardens its negotiating stance. Herbig, who impressed in his first 2 seasons and has drawn praise from head coach Mike Tomlin, is widely viewed as a rising defensive star in Pittsburgh. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin smiles with pass rusher Nick Herbig while coaching him up during a home game in Pittsburgh. Trading him would be a bold move, especially considering the Steelers' high expectations for his future. However, the potential to land an all-pro weapon like Hill might make such a deal worth considering in the eyes of some observers. Sobleski explained why he believes this trade would help the Dolphins even though it appears Pittsburgh would win it. However, a benefit exists in simply moving Hill's contract, saving a windfall of salary cap space and rolling it over to next season, Sobleski said. In turn, the team can bring back a 23-year-old defender in Nick Herbig. Still, the likelihood of this trade becoming a reality appears slim. Hill is under contract with the Dolphins through the 2026 season, and Miami would likely demand a significant return, possibly more than just Herbig, to part ways with their most dynamic offensive threat. Steelers trading for TYREEK Hill would be wild. For the Steelers, surrendering a young, cost-controlled defensive standout could create a new hole in a defense that has been one of the league's best. However, the Steelers' defense is pretty loaded. Many would argue that if Pittsburgh really wants to go all in, a trade for Hill would certainly help the chances Pittsburgh wins a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. While it is fun to imagine Hill catching passes in black and gold, this proposal seems more like off-season talk than an imminent blockbuster. For now, both Hill and Herbig remain firmly in place with their current teams, but the conversation is yet another reminder of how one player's dissatisfaction can ignite trade speculation across the league. Steelers assistant general manager Andy Weidl speaks to the media in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hill's been up and down in terms of how happy he is in Miami. If the Dolphins get tired of the headache, Pittsburgh could come in. Steelers fans just heard assistant general manager Andy Weidl explain the team will always look for ways to add playmakers to this roster.